Oh, there are so many yummy vegetarian options out there. You could try like lentil soup, veggie burgers, tofu stir fry. The possibilities are endless.
All right, so you're thinking about starting a business. That's fantastic. You get to be your own boss, call the shots, but with that freedom comes some pretty big responsibilities. And honestly, one of the very first and most important decisions you're going to make happens right at the beginning. It's choosing your business structure. Now, this might sound like just paperwork, but trust me, it's so much more. It's the entire foundation, the legal and financial bedrock of everything you're about to build. So here's our game plan for today. We'll start by talking about why this decision is so crucial. Then we'll walk through the 4 main business structures you can choose from in Canada. After that, we're going to get into the nitty-gritty, looking at the big factors like personal liability and, this is a big one, the tax equation. We'll also touch on things like people, perception, and funding. And finally, we'll bring it all together to help you figure out how to choose the right foundation for your business.
Okay, let's dive right in. The entrepreneur's first decision. It really is all about that balance between freedom and responsibility.
This quote really hits the nail on the head. With freedom comes responsibility. It's not just a saying, it's the reality of being an entrepreneur. The business structure you pick, well, that directly impacts how much tax you'll pay and maybe even more importantly, how much personal risk you're taking on. If you get this right from the start, you can save yourself a world of headaches and a lot of money down the road.
All right, next up, let's look at the actual options on the table. In Canada, you've basically got 4 main ways to structure your business. Each one comes with its own set of rules, its own pros, and its own cons. First, we have the sole proprietorship. This is the simplest, most straightforward way to go. Think of it this way. You are the business. There's no legal difference between you and the company. So all the money the business makes, it just goes right onto your personal tax return. Super simple, right? But that simplicity has a catch, a pretty big one, called unlimited personal liability. And we'll get into exactly what that means in a bit.
Okay, what if you're not going it alone? That brings us to the partnership. This is for when 2 or more people team up. You share everything, the profits, the losses, the decisions, and because of that, having a solid partnership agreement in writing is absolutely crucial. You really don't want to skip that step. Now, there are a couple of types, but the main one to know is a general partnership, where everyone shares the liability. There's also a limited partnership, which works a bit differently.
Next up is the big one, the corporation. And here's the key idea you have to grasp. A corporation is its own person in the eyes of the law. It's a separate legal entity. This is a game changer because it creates a legal wall, a shield really, between the business's debts and your personal assets. So if the business gets into trouble, your house and car are safe. Now, it's definitely more complicated to set up, but for raising money and for tax purposes, well, it has some huge advantages. And last but not least, we have the cooperative. You don't see these as often, but they're really interesting. The whole idea is based on democracy. One member gets one vote. The main goal isn't to make a ton of profit for outside investors. Instead, it's all about benefiting the members themselves. Think about things like a local credit union or a farming co-op. That's the model we're talking about here. Okay, this chart is a great way to see everything side by side. Look at that liability column. You can see a really clear split, right? On one side, you have sole proprietorships and partnerships with unlimited personal liability. That means you and the business are one and the same. On the other side, corporations and cooperatives have limited liability. And that's that legal wall we were talking about, that separation that protects your personal stuff. All right, let's really dig into our first major factor, personal liability. Honestly, this might be the most important one for you to understand because it's all about protecting your personal assets. So what's the real difference here? Well, it's huge. With unlimited liability, that's for sole proprietorships and general partnerships, there is no wall. If your business gets sued or goes into debt, creditors can come after your house, your car, your personal savings, everything. But with limited liability, which you get with corporations and co-ops, that legal firewall is there. Your personal assets are safe. The only thing at risk is what the business itself owns. And look, this isn't just some abstract legal theory. For some businesses, the risk of being sued is very, very real. If you're in manufacturing or the food industry, or if you're a tradesperson, or even a professional like a lawyer or a dentist, the chances of something going wrong are just higher. In those cases, that liability shield from a corporation isn't just nice to have. It's something you should seriously, seriously consider.
Okay, let's switch gears and talk about everyone's favorite topic, taxes. But seriously, this is where your business structure can become an incredibly powerful financial tool, especially when we talk about something called tax deferral.
So here's a general rule of thumb. Once your business starts clearing around $100,000 in profit a year, you really need to start thinking about incorporating. Why? Because it opens up a huge tax advantage. You can leave some of that profit inside the corporation where it gets taxed at a much, much lower rate than your personal income tax rate.
But how much of a difference are we talking about here? Is it really that significant? Well, let's run the numbers. Let's imagine your business has a great year and makes $200,000 in profit. We're going to compare what happens if you're a sole proprietor versus a corporation. So if you're a sole proprietor, that entire $200,000 in profit is just considered your personal income for the year. And after all the taxes are calculated, you're looking at a tax bill of over $71,000. That's a big chunk because every single dollar is being taxed at your highest personal rate.
Okay, now let's see how a corporation handles this. It's a totally different strategy. Step 1, instead of taking all 200 grand, the owner pays themselves a reasonable salary, let's say $100,000. Step 2, you pay personal income tax on that salary, which comes out to about $26,000. Now for the clever part. Step 3, the other $100,000 of profit, it stays inside the company, and it gets taxed at the low small business corporate rate, which is only about $12,000. And here's the bottom line. You add the personal tax on the salary to the corporate tax on the profit, and the total tax bill is just over $38,000. Let that sink in. We went from over $71,000 down to just over $38,000. That is a massive, massive difference. By incorporating and being smart about it, you've essentially cut your tax bill almost in half for the year. Okay, so we've talked about liability and taxes, which are the two heavy hitters. But there are a few other important things to think about too. We can lump them together as people, perception, and funding. Let's run through these quickly. First, who are you in business with? If it's just you, a sole proprietorship can make sense. If you've got partners, well, you'll need a partnership. Or if it's a group, maybe a cooperative. Simple. Second, how do you want your business to be seen? What's the perception? Sometimes being a corporation signals a certain level of seriousness and stability, while a sole proprietorship might feel more personal and grassroots. And finally, number 5. Do you need money? Because if you're looking for a bank loan or investors, they almost always prefer dealing with a corporation. It's just cleaner and safer for them. All right, let's bring this all home. We've gone through the 4 main structures and the 5 key factors to think about. Now it's about putting it all together and choosing the right foundation for your future. Remember, this isn't just about what's easiest today. Choosing the right structure is about setting yourself up for the long haul. It's about being financially efficient, legally secure, and having the ability to grow without being held back by your initial setup. So I'll leave you with this question. Now that you have the framework, liability, taxes, people, perception, funding, which one of those factors is going to be the most critical for your business? What's your number one priority? Answering that is the key to figuring out which foundation you need to build.